everybody, welcome back. So today I have with me Matto Cominelli from Generali Insurance.
Good morning, everybody. Hello.
All right, so we are going to be discussing the subject of insurance as a general subject and some ideas of things of what to expect when you're renting, and also on the subject of healthcare. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready, and we can go to discuss all these very interesting topic for foreigners.
Exactly. All right, so the first thing I wanted to ask, which is, we are on the subject of medical. We've been talking a lot about medical doctors and what to expect. Let's say, for example, somebody is relocating to Italy for work on like a temporary basis. So they're not going to go through the residency and get the health card. What would be some options or some ideas of where they could start to make sure that they and their family have healthcare coverage?
Okay. Thank you, Christine. This is an interesting question because it happens quite often now that people come to Italy because of their company relocate them to Italy. And when they come here, the health system is always a issue, because if it goes to the general doctor, you know how to do it, you know that you can go with the Italian health system. But you know, the health is not something that you can control. So if you have something urgent, or if you need to go to the hospital, or if you need a specific doctor, or an exam, or you need surgery, which is the worst case, maybe you want to go private to pay and to be refunded by an insurance company. So in this case, we have three kind of option. If we talk about a temporary relocation of the person, we can go with the company of the Generali Group, which is a Europe assistance. The company has two kind of insurance. One which is completely temporary, so the person can decide to insure for 1 to 3 months, the exact time or period that he comes to Italy. He can apply for this kind of insurance before he comes to Italy, so when it's not resident at all. The only point that I need to focus is that he or she needs a sponsor in Italy. So the company that relocate him in Italy have to sign for this kind of insurance, so they can provide and they can be a sponsor for the person coming to Italy.
Okay, so on that, let's say somebody is in the process of relocating. Where would they start? Would they start with their company and ask them to help them, or would they start with you first?
Yeah, they start with the company and make the company in connection with us. We can set all the insurance with the exact time of period that the person come, and then we can issue the cover. I want to explain why this kind of thing, because it's quite important to explain why the person can insure from another country, let's say Brazil, through Italy. Because if this is possible, the market insurance will be too open and will go over the rules of the singular countries. So one from Brazil can buy an insurance in Italy with Italian taxes and Italian laws, and this is not possible. So that's why they need a contract signer that it's already in Italy.
Okay, good to understand. And then on the other side of the scenario is, so we've been talking about the difference of the public versus private system in Bergamo. And let's say somebody has residency here, but they choose to stay private for private doctors and things like that. What does that generally look like?
Yeah, okay. Even in this case, if you come to Italy, you get the residency and you want to get insured by the private system, you have two choices. One is still with Europe Assistance, is a 1-year cover that covers for all the private issues here in Italy. So you can go to private hospitals, have private doctors or exams. Or the extended cover, which is with Generali, which is a cover that is fully comprehensive and it works all over the world. So you get insured in Italy, and if you travel abroad, you are covered in Germany, UK, United States. That's the most covering type of insurance. They are all modular, so you can decide what kind of cover you want to have, and coming from a price that can be 300 to 3,000 euros. It depends on what you want to buy.
Everybody's scenario is
and
different.
Because you asked before, it is important to understand that they can be covering all your families. So you can start with a cover only for the person and extend it to all the members of the family. If the family gets bigger because we have one more children or daughter, you can extend. So they are all personalized.
Okay, perfect. Good to know. And when you're looking at these type of contracts, is there any specific, like, my question is this exactly, is there something that normally gets excluded that people find that they need after, or when they're looking at their contract, what advice could you give somebody to make sure is covered?
Okay. For the first two kinds of insurance that we talked about, the one that you can sign before you come to Italy and it's temporary, and the one that it's 1 year maximum, there are no limits. So you subscribe that insurance and everything that happens in that year or in that short period is included.
Okay.
That's because of the kind of insurance. They are temporary, so we don't care about what happened before and what is going to happen. For the most covering insurance, which is more expensive and it can cover very expensive medical issues, you have to sign a form with the disease that you had before.
Okay.
And if you had a particular disease, they will be excluded from the insurance cover.
Okay.
That's important to know because the company gets all the risk about all the issues that can happen, but they want to know if something happened before.
Okay.
Like the worst case, if you have an heart attack 1 year before, and in the next years we are going to have some follow-up and checks about the heart attack that you had, the company needs to know and to put some exclusions or limitation.
Okay. Good to know. And then also, like, let's say, for example, you have a pre-existing health condition, you expose all that, and then that's dealt with individually with the person to decide what's covered and what's not covered, I'm assuming?
Yeah, before the issues of the insurance, we discuss with the clients what's comprehensive and what's not, and then we decide what to do.
Okay, makes sense. All right, so then the other thing that I wanted to ask you about, since we're on the subject of Italy, is a lot of the times we do rental contracts and there is a clause that's in a lot of standard contracts, that's in some contracts, it's not in some contracts, and it's always like, what is this insurance thing? So can you please tell us about that?
Yeah, okay. I want to highlight that it's not something that it's considering only the foreigners, it's something that it's in the contracts also for Italian people. It's a tricky name, it's strange. I think this is only in insurance language, so we call it Rischio Locativo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rischio Locativo.
Yes.
Which means risk of locating?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Which is the risk that stays on the people that locate a house, or it works even for offices or shops, but it's the same for houses. So the owner has all the rights to ask to the people that gets in the house for the liability that stays on the person, for all the risk arising from his action inside the house. So if there is a fire starting from the person inside cooking or using a tool inside the house that gets fire to all the house, the owner has the rights by law to ask the person to be refunded. So the Rischio Locativo works to refund this kind of liability.
Okay.
Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, it's clear. So not everybody's going to ask for it, but would you recommend somebody renting an apartment to have it regardless?
Yes. It's not an expensive insurance.
Okay.
The one thing that I suggest is to check the amount that it's needed to be insured. Like if it's in the top contract, sometimes the owner says you have to insure 100,000 euros.
Okay.
The thing is to check that the amount is properly insured. Like 100,000 euros, it's okay for a 100 square meters apartment.
Okay.
Because the value that it's going to be refunded to the owner is calculating on the value to rebuild that house.
Okay.
Okay, so that's an important thing to check. So if this thing is not in the policy, on the contract, and the person wants to have this insurance, he has to check the value that he's going to insure.
Okay.
Okay, and another thing that is good to highlight is that if the person insured for the Rischio Locativo
Okay.
is not going to insure for all the kinds of damages that can happen in the house. So if the fire starts for an electrical breakdown or because of lightning coming down or another reason, the owner of the house needs to have his own insurance.
Okay.
It's not
Falling on the renter.
Yeah.
Okay. And then another subject on that is, speaking of the subject of the houses and stuff, is like, so I've heard we had some flooding in some places.
Yeah.
And so is this something else that, like, somebody, sparked my interest on this, because the subject of flooding was like, if the water's coming up, it's one thing, and if the water's coming down, it's another thing?
Yeah.
Would this be in the Rischio Locativo?
No.
No, so this is something that the owner needs to worry about.
Okay. This is something that the owner needs to have. Christine said well that there is a difference between what is atmospherical events.
Okay.
So if the rain is coming and the wind is coming and they take off the roof of a building, it's atmospherical events. But if there is a river that can stay in the, is it bed of the river like in Italy?
Something like that.
Yeah, if the river goes out or the stream goes out, it's a flood. That's called catastrophic events.
Okay.
Okay. There is a law coming to Italy this year that make this kind of insurance mandatory for companies, not for houses. But probably in the near years and in the future years, they will be mandatory for houses. So if the damages are to the buildings, the owner needs to have this kind of insurance. But if the damages are to the goods that is brought in by
the renter and the families,
yes, in that case, they need the insurance for their own stuff.
Okay. All right. Good to know. And all right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know it's a bit technical topic, but it's important to know.
It's important to also set the expectation and to open the conversation, because otherwise everybody's coming from different parts of the world. Everybody has a different idea of how it should work. So it's kind of good to just get it all out there and say, like, okay, this is some things to expect and some things that you should talk about.
Yeah, and sorry, because you say there are people coming from different parts of the world, and sometimes they're used to get with the insurances in their countries, and the rules are different. I had cases recently with people coming from the UK and talking about their house insurance, and in the UK the cost of house insurance is less than in Italy. But because the statistics, the weather and everything in Italy are different, they can't expect the same prices in Italy than in the UK.
And speaking of that subject, a lot of people come over with cars.
Yeah.
This is a new one. This is another one.
Yeah,
so
but it's okay. It's the same.
They have to switch the plate, and then one of the most commonly heard things is like, well, my insurance was so cheap before, but then in Italy you have to restart from zero.
Yeah.
And if you have a really nice car, you can expect your rates to be higher. Am I not mistaken on this?
Yeah, it's correct. The thing is that every country has their rules, their statistics, and it happens like this. One thing about car that it's quite common is that you have a risk assessment of your car behavior. So if you behave well, you spend less, and if you behave bad, you spend more. And that's the same in most of the countries.
Okay.
But you can't keep the record of the previous country when you come to Italy.
Okay, so that's the big question,
And the thing is that this kind of mechanism in other countries work even for other kind of insurance.
Yeah.
Like the person coming from the UK told me, okay, for my house insurance, it happened nothing. I never opened a claim, and I spend less. In Italy, it's not like this.
Okay.
Okay.
So you have to research, I guess, before you start anything is the best way to go.
Yes, of course.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And then one other question I had was about some Americans who come over on a elettorio visa.
Yeah.
Okay. they have to provide an insurance in the middle, I think, before they get their residency to get their visa. Is this something they can do here, or they have to do it in America?
I think you talk about
It's the same subject. They would have to have the sponsor here.
Yeah,
but
the guarantee. It's a kind of guarantee that you can provide for yourself with money. That you can't.
Yeah.
You don't come here and you don't have the money to provide for yourself. It's not only for American. It's for all the countries that need a visa to come to Italy.
Okay.
And we, as Generali, and most of the generic companies in Italy, don't do this kind of insurance. There are specific companies that do this kind of guarantee.
Okay.
But it's quite easy. Having research online, you can find this kind of insurance. The thing that I suggest is to look quite carefully, because they are not very expensive. Sometimes you can find some kind of scam online about this kind of insurance, because they know that people coming from abroad, maybe they are not prepared for this kind of thing, and they try to get as more money as they can. But that kind of insurance is not very cheap, very expensive.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your time today. Is there any last words you could give any of our listeners about the most? If you had to pick like the most important piece of advice when planning insurance, what would it be?
To find a good person to talk about insurance. The consultancy part of an insurance policy is very important. And when I talk to clients, and everybody here at the Generali in Bergamo, when we talk to our clients, want to know much more information that we can. Because with the much more information and a good talk and an open talk with the clients, we can understand better the situation and to provide the best insurance for them. I know it's not easy, especially to switch from this kind of topics from Italian to English, and especially when we talk about health. That's a very important topic, and when you have to talk about the health condition, is not easy. But I think that in Italy we are switching to a private health system.
I say this every day. Yeah.
So even in the insurance world, we are getting used to this kind of thing, and with the client, it's easy to provide them the good service, and the good service is what I have to do after I buy the insurance, and I have to seriously go to doctor and have the medical health.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, everybody, have a good day. Thank you.
See you. Bye.